So here's something interesting. South Africa is facing a cost of living crisis that's quietly devastating millions of households across the country. All of this is happening while politicians debate economic policies and statisticians crunch inflation numbers. Ordinary people, ordinary families are making impossible choices between putting food on the table and keeping the lights on, and how are we going to send our kids to decent schools? This gap, this crisis, the gap between what people earn and what they actually need to live with dignity has become a chasm that's swallowing up the dreams of an entire nation's generation. So today, we're going to break down exactly what it costs to live comfortably in South Africa in 2025. We're also going to expose the massive gap between minimum wage and the living wage. And we're also going to reveal why even middle income earners are struggling to make ends meet. We're also going to explore the shocking price increases that are outpacing inflation, and we're also going to uncover why the current system is failing millions of hard-working South Africans. Okay, firstly, we need to define what comfortable living is in South Africa. We're not talking about luxury cars and private schools. We're talking about an ordinary middle-class lifestyle where you can eat well or well enough, have decent housing, afford healthcare, send kids to good state schools, and have a little bit left over for entertainment, savings, and investing. Now, according to the latest research, a single person needs to take home around 27,000 Rand per month to live comfortably in South Africa. This is in 2025. But here's where it gets even more interesting. The average net salary now sits at around 23,300 Rand per month in the country. That's already 4,200 Rand short of what you actually need to live comfortably. But what we all need to understand here is that we're talking about a systematic problem where the majority of South Africans earn less than what's required for basic comfort. The numbers tell us a very interesting and scary story when we start to look at different cities in particular. Pretoria leads with an average salary of 28,000 Rand, followed by Cape Town at 26,000 Rand 198, and Johannesburg is at 24,000 Rand. Only Pretoria barely exceeds the comfortable living threshold. So I want to know what your take is on this gap between average salaries and comfortable living costs. I want you to drop your comments down below and let's get going on this conversation. I want to hear your thoughts. Look, housing is where the rubber meets the road when it comes to comfortable living. The thing here is that accommodation costs vary dramatically between cities. Cape Town is in a league of its own. We know that. Rental costs in the mother city are about 50% higher than Johannesburg, despite similar salaries. You start to see where the discrepancies are here. Take a closer look at these numbers. A one-bedroom city center apartment costs 7,400 Rand in Joburg, 7,100 Rand in Pretoria, but 13,700 Rand in Cape Town, nearly double. Three-bedroom suburban homes run 12,000 Rand roughly in Joburg, 13,000 Rand in Pretoria, and 17,900 in Cape Town. And then when you look at Durban, it's around 10,000 Rand. The national average for a one-bedroom apartment is 8,700 Rand, meaning you're spending nearly a third of your money on that comfortable living budget on just the house alone. When we take a macro view, this explains why so many South Africans are house poor, earning decent salaries but trapped by accommodation costs. Food costs actually reveal South Africa's two-tier system. Basic staples remain pretty affordable, while quality and variety cost European prices, and I'm not joking. The BFAP Thrifty Healthy Food Basket estimates 3,833 Rand feeds a family of 4 monthly, but that's survival level nutrition. For a varied healthy diet with fresh fruit, quality ingredients, and toiletries, you need around 11,000 Rand for that same family, nearly triple the basic budget. Transport costs create a stark inequality as well. Car ownership means 4,500 Rand to 6,500 Rand monthly in running costs, immediately putting it beyond minimum wage earners completely. Public transport offers dramatic savings, but bus passes cost 800 to 1,000 Rand monthly, and taxi journeys take 10 Rand to 25 Rand per trip one way. The best angle to see this is from understanding that your transport mode determines your economic class. Those who can afford cars or access to cars, they have better picks at job opportunities, while public transport users face longer commutes and limited economic access, because a lot of jobs actually ask, do you have access to private transport? But how was your grocery bill and your transport costs last month? Or how are you managing? Where does the rubber meet the road for you? Let us know down below in the comments. South Africa's utility costs tell a pretty tough story, one of failing infrastructure. A single person pays 1,500 Rand to 3,500 Rand monthly for water, electricity, and then refuse collection. But that averages out at around 2,100 Rand. What's particularly crushing for South Africans is paying developed world prices for developing world infrastructure. Think of things like load shedding, water outages, and unreliable services. Healthcare exposes perhaps our most brutal inequality. Quality healthcare has become a luxury good in this country. Basic hospital plans start at 1,600 Rand per person. Comprehensive insurance reaches 5,000 Rand per family member, and GP consultations cost anything north of 600 Rand per visit. Now, what you need to understand here is that healthcare costs create a vicious cycle. Those who can least afford to get sick have the least access to preventative healthcare, leading to more serious and expensive health crises. Okay, now we get to the heart of the crisis. South Africa's minimum wage is a poverty wage that is condemning millions of people to continued monthly perpetual struggle. The national minimum wage is at 28.79 Rand per hour, which sounds reasonable until you start to do the math. Working 8 hours daily, 23 days monthly, minimum wage workers earn 5,297 Rand and 36 cents. Remember, our comfortable living figure is around 27,600 Rand, right? Minimum wage workers earn less than 20% of what you need to live comfortably in South Africa. Even the conservative decent life estimate of 6,788 Rand every month is 1,500 Rand more than the minimum wage, or at least what it provides. What's interesting to note here is that we have a legal wage structure that's mathematically guaranteed to put you or keep you in some shape of struggle. The Living Wage South Africa network argues that 12,000 to 15,000 Rand monthly is what people actually need to decently live in this country. They surveyed 2,300 people across 9 provinces, asking them to define a good life and mapping this against actual incomes and what it would cost. When we take a macro view, South Africa has created a system where working full-time legally still leaves you in some shape of struggle. The typical breadwinner supports 4 people, meaning that 5,297 Rand, or that salary, that has to stretch across multiple family members. That in itself is really tough to consider or to juggle because the runway is just not there. Now, the Competition Commission's cost of living report reveals a pretty brutal part of the math as well. Electricity costs have increased by 68% over the last 5 years. Water, well, that's increased by 50%, while general inflation was only around 28%. Education costs rose 37% for primary school and 42% for high school. To fully get what's going on here, or to look at it from a different perspective, essential services have increased at double the rate of general inflation, creating an inescapable cost spiral, which just doesn't make sense. Low-income households spend over 40% of their income on food and basic services, meaning that every price increase directly hits their survival. What you also need to get, and what we need to all understand about this thing, is that it's not just economic. It's a social crisis that's undermining South Africa's society as a whole, the entire foundation. When full-time work can't provide basic dignity, we have a fundamental breakdown in our entire system. South Africa's cost of living crisis isn't about money, or not just about that. It's about the society that we're building and the future that we're trying to create together. The gap between the earnings and the dignity level living has become so wide that it's starting to threaten our democracy and its social fabric. If you actually think about it, think about how many people you know in townships who are just standing around during working hours. The solutions aren't simple, but start with acknowledging that millions of South Africans daily are having it tough. We need wages that actually allow for living and not just surviving. We need infrastructure that works, that suddenly makes things cheaper, like public transport, etc. We need healthcare that doesn't bankrupt families. We need a thriving middle class that isn't just a luxury to be part of. That forms the foundation of a stable and prosperous society. We have to understand that. The question isn't whether we can afford to fix this crisis, it's whether we can afford not to fix it. But I want to hear your thoughts about South Africa's cost of living crisis and what it takes to live comfortably down below. Let's chat about it and let's kind of see where we can find some sort of middle ground. We might not change things instantly, but we could start to recognize what other people are going through. Thank you for watching this video right up until this point. I hope that it was just as interesting for you to watch as it was for us to make for you. Check out one of these other videos and hopefully they'll be just as interesting as this one. Cheers.